We just wrapped up an incredible FaZe Invitational tournament with TSM and Sentinels in the grand finals. You see, previously TSM knocked Sentinels down to the losers bracket, and we covered one of the most incredible games of all time already, so if you haven't seen that, go check it out. But now we have to cover the grand finals match, where TSM came back in due to large part because of TSM's Wardell's opping skills. That being said, in this video, we're going to be breaking down some tips, tricks, and gunplay fundamentals, break it down play by play from Wardell's point of view so that we can better learn just how he manages to get so much impact with the sniper in his games and how you can apply that to yours. Now, before we get started, I got a special offer for you. If you smash that fat subscribe button, the last person that was the most toxic person to you in your games, I bet you could think about them right now in your mind. If you smash that like and subscribe button, they will go on like a 20-game loss streak. So if you wish the worst on that toxic person, then smash the like and subscribe. But without further ado, let's just jump right into it, shall we? Now, right off the bat, I want you to notice something about how TSM clears through B site. First, they throw out the silver drone and it clears through Hookah, while Subrosa and Wardell pushes up to control the space before Hookah. Then from here, from Hookah, Subrosa ults out on Phoenix, flashes out, and tries to take point control. Here's the big takeaway for you. You can cascade abilities just like this to take control of entire sections of an area at a time. You combine things like drone into flash, into Phoenix ult, etc, 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 and you're systematically taking space that way, and it could be a way to take space really aggressively and find value positioning. Now, as Subrosa makes contact with the point and wraps left, I want you to notice Wardell's patience as he waits for Sinatra to peek and he punishes it and cuts him off from the right side. This comes down to understanding your role as an AWPer, in which Wardell just needs to control that angle so Subrosa has less to worry about. This can work in a number of situations, but let me give you an example. Imagine your team is pushing up split mid and you hold vents with an AWP while your team pushes up and takes heaven B. This is a pseudo form of punish and protection. Here's why this is so important for you to incorporate in your games. If you're holding an angle with an AWP, your teammates can push in and be less afraid of said angle, and at the same time, you can easily punish those who swing from and to the areas that you're holding or looking and locking down. That being said, however, a big factor in premium AWP play is never missing those easy shots because it can let your team down. And then also, let's say that you're holding a doorway or an opening, and the second an enemy appears, you miss and your teammates get killed, they will be hesitant to trust you from then on. So you almost always need to protect them from that angle that you're holding. On top of that, if the enemy jiggle peek it, flash out, or you see enemy movement, you need to instantly relay that to your team so that your allies can now move and position to respect the angle because they don't know whether or not you can hold it or not. And that is incredibly important to relay, and I'm sure that TSM's comms are filled with the exact same type of info, but Wardell almost always hits those shots. Now, moving on a little bit, notice Wardell, once they control this site, he has his discipline in holding likely peak angles. They do have prior information of Sick, who was opping long, so he predicted a potential hookah peak because Sick could have wrapped around. Now, what you need to know is that you should be holding tight angles of places that you know enemies are likely to peek from or route from, and with Sick having an op, it is very likely that he would swing a tight angle, but because Wardell was pre-holding it, it was an easy shutdown because he had the more powerful position. Now, moving on to another play later in the match, notice the same concept I talked about earlier as Wardell holds the angle of hookah entrance as Subrosa pushes up. How many times have you died pushing up here to an enemy swinging out of hookah? This basically shuts off that play as a possibility from the enemy and safely allows your team to take space near hookah entrance. You see, the areas that you cross before you control natural cover, like from where Wardell is to hookah, or where from hookah is to metal boxes on point, these are dangerous zones because they have no cover to jiggle behind. If corners and places like hookah are power angles, these would be the opposite, like weak positions. As an AWPer, you can help your team route to these powerful positions and prevent them from getting caught out during a position transition. So that is extremely important, and that's what Wardell will do a lot. He will hold an angle while his teammates get in better position before he moves up or pushes up aggressively or rotates off. Now, pay close attention to how Wardell checks hookah here. While this play doesn't lead to anything substantial in value, the fundamentals are all there. slowly stagger sweeping as if every foot he makes and every place he's aiming to, someone will appear there. Notice how the red first shot accurate dot in the middle of his crosshair keeps appearing again and again. This is the exact type of style that you need to have. You need to have deliberate motion. Imagining that your enemy can appear there at any time is paramount. Let me ask you a question. How many times have you checked a place or held an angle, and right as you looked at the minimap or thought about rotating off, you got swung and died? It's important to imagine that the enemy could peek you or be hiding where you're swinging at all times. Don't just go through the motions. Imagine that they are there, and imagine that if the enemy swings out, you are ready to shoot them. This type of imagine play can better set you up for actually executing the actions if that reality is true. Now moving on to a future play, same setup here. Wardell secures the angle while the team routes to orb for drone's ult. Now after his team pushes site, check out this positioning on Wardell, showing off some of the powerful angles that you could take on Jett. He outdrafts on top of boxes and watches CT spawn entrance and just simply holds the angle. His patience here actually lets him finish off a weak Shazam, but before that, you need to understand why this position is so strong in the first place. First off, Wardell can easily contest a powerful entrance onto the site, but also he can gain information and relay it to his allies if anyone crosses. He's also vertical up, so it's not a typical peak spot for enemies to pre-fire, and it will be very difficult for them to know exactly where he is. Now, as a big takeaway for you, don't forget you can use your abilities to set up smart angles, whether you're Omen, Jett, Raze, or Sage, and also hold angles where it's most likely the enemy is going to be rotating from. At the very least, you can relay information to your team about sighting them. Now, moving on to this another breakdown, notice the defense. In OT now, Wardell is holding hookah here. Typically, he actually pushes out aggressively, but Sentinels and Sinatra has caught him out on his antics multiple times, so instead of playing too aggressive, he simply holds the angle. Now, Sinatra will flush him out with Boombot and Jiggle Peek fire the angle. Wardell simply pre-fires, gets nothing, and backs off. Now, the important thing for you to understand is that if enemies are aware of a tight or aggressive angle you are holding, it is incredibly easy for them to force you into a bad spot. When holding an aggressive position on an op, you have one chance to make a play, and if the enemy either flushes you out, you miss your play, or they find where you are, you have to relocate, and that's the only reason that Wardell didn't get punished here. Wardell living here actually allows him to secure a double kill this round, and if he would have gotten punished, they 100% would have lost this very, very important round. Now for this last round, I'm just going to break it down top to bottom. It was an amazing round for TSM and Wardell to close out the series. 13-12 TSM not only came back from the brink, but now they are one round from victory. First, we gotta talk about TSM's rotation strategies. These strategies have been extremely upgraded, and they've been learning things like crazy. Check out their setup here. Wardell and Cutler are pushing in for showers control, and Drone is hard baiting, droning out hookah. Then everyone rotates off, and it turns into a split push, 2 showers, 3 A main. Interesting enough, both Sinatra and Sick are still B-side as the Raze and Sage player. This does give an opportunity for TSM. Now, that being said, however, right off the bat, Sentinels picks off 2 TSM members, putting it in a 3v5 situation. But Wardell not only kills Shazam, but Hazed goes huge and secures 2 kills on both Zombs and Dapper. Sinatra and Sick once again have to push it to a Wardell who has point control, and a tightly held angle by Wardell shuts down Sinatra instantly. The information gathered from Shazam's drone earlier and Wardell's powerful positioning basically made it so that anyone who peeked from the back of sight would get insta deleted. Now, something really interesting about Wardell's play right here is as he's holding the angle, he's actually crouching. And there is one very specific reason to crouch while opping at a high level, and it's to mess up enemies' crosshair placement. Sick and Sinatra try to contest Wardell, but notice how as they jiggle peek, their crosshairs are always head level because typically that's exactly where you want it to be, but when Wardell is crouching, it really changes where his head is and makes it a lot harder to secure a one tap. You see, Wardell's always messing with his head level position. Sometimes he'll be on top of a box crouched. Sometimes he'll be on top of a box standing up. Sometimes he'll be at the floor crouching. He's always messing with the preconceived muscle memory of crosshair placement, and that does get him a fair amount of value in a lot of different engagements. Now, Wardell got a pick on Shazam here and easily shut down Sinatra and Sick, clutching up the win for his team. TSM did honestly amazing. Big turnaround. from being at match point 4 rounds in a row to making a comeback and beating Sentinels, not for the first time, but the second time this tournament, after being dominated by them in many tournaments in the past. This is a great showing for TSM. Strats were fundamentally better, a lot more rotations, a lot more mind games and messing with the enemy. Wardell was just popping off. Drone and Sub Rosa was clutching like crazy. TSM is looking prime, and they're definitely one of the best teams in NA now. They grabbed back their spot, but between them, Sentinels, Cloud9, a lot of really, really amazing teams right now, and it's hard to decide what the best team is, but TSM is looking like a fundamentally different animal than they have been in the past. Definitely let me know down below who you think was MVP of the match. Now, speaking of MVP, you would be the MVP of my day if you smashed that like and subscribe button. I love making these videos, these in-depth VOD reviews. Definitely let me know your support in the comments down below. That's all I got for you today. I'm Coach Mills, and of course, until next time,